Hello everyone, welcome to the session database testing. So when we are talking about database testing, the fundamental things of database needs to be understood. The basic commands in the database are create, alter, delete, update. These are called the CRUD operations. Create, read, update, delete. So these are like some basic operations which everyone needs to understand before even jumping into database testing. So when you say database testing, there are multiple other types of database testing. So in any database, you'll have DDL, DML, DCL, TCL, clauses, constraints, joins. These are like basic operations which is in any of the database. So in nowadays we are using NoSQL, which also has these kind of commands, but it is without a structure or a query or which doesn't store the data in local. All these things are like some basic things which you need to understand before even jumping to the database. So these are like the fundamental things. And when we move ahead with the table management, how do you do a table management? So you must be having diagrams, Venn diagrams for understanding the combination, understanding the constraints, understanding the relationship between each and every table. All these things needs to be understood before even jumping to uh, manipulating or editing any data. So the next thing is inserting a data. There is raw data, unique data, and non-unique data. Raw data is like a new data which you're creating, and it is not a formatted data. It is a fresh data which is non-formatted. It's called as raw data. And unique data is if you want some unique values, you use the unique keyword and get the unique data. And non-unique data is whatever is there in the database. It gives you all the data in whatever format you have requested. So updating the data, deleting the data, and query management. Query management is when you're doing manual or automation testing, you need to understand what is a query. A query starts with a select statement or it might be a different statement, but whatever the operations which you're performing on any database, that is important to be understood before even doing any manipulations of the data. So simple query, aggregate functions, string manipulations, data manipulations, subqueries, equijoin, outer join, self join, union, intersection, minus, all these things are like some of the query management things which needs to be taken care while you're doing the database testing. And view management is one more topic where you need to understand the relationship between the data. View management, and next comes the sequence management, index management, constraint management, triggers, stored procedures, exceptions, sequences, constraints, and other DBA features. So these are like the few basic things which needs to be taken care before even jumping to database testing or before even manipulating the data which is already present or which you're creating in a database. So when you talk specifically about the testing of database, the basic things which we use is a CRUD operation or ACID properties. CRUD operation is nothing but creating, reading, updating, and deleting the data in any of the database. When you're saying database testing process, first is whenever the data is created, you need to validate the same data. You need to print the same data. You need to export the same data. You should be able to export, print the same data, whichever is stored already on the database. All these things are some of the validations which you need to perform. So if you're running a query for adding one name to another name, for example, first name to a second last name, you add these two and show the username as the full name. For doing this operation, you need to be very sure and you need to validate in such a way that the data which you are receiving from table A or table B is matching both the things. In the output, if you consider table A as first name, table B as last name, and your full name equals table A plus table B, you should validate the same thing. And even in the output, you should be seeing the same thing. So these are some few validations which you can perform on the database. So when you're talking about the acid properties, what is acid properties? Atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. These are some few basic operations which You need to perform to identify whether your database is stable. Your database is able to handle multiple queries together. All these things is very important. Prepare, these are like some basic, prepare in such a way that all the database operations you are familiar, and process involvement, prepare the environment. The main process of database involves preparing the environment, running a test, check the result, validate, report the findings. If you are not able to get the valid report, or if you're not able to get the valid data out of the database, then report it to the developers or inform your peer people to fix that particular piece of data, and then again redo the test and then verify whether it is matching. This is very important in any database testing. Whatever data you are giving as an input and whatever data you are receiving as an output, these two things should be exactly the same, or it may be in a different form. Input you are giving in a one form and the output is in a different form, but the data changes should not happen. For example, if you consider one person age today in for example, you are running your query on 10 a.m. So you give the age as 28 and you are receiving the age as 29. That should not happen. Same time, if you're running the query, it should be 28. Whatever the user input is given, the same thing should be shown for the user as the output also. That is very important. I hope this was a helpful session. Thank you so much.